En el episodio anterior de Vocálica,
You go into show business only if you die if you didn't. And I always say you perform this much when you're in high school, this much when you're in college, and then the real world you'll be lucky to perform. That's the reality of that business. I used to be a belter, that was what they wanted. And that's what I think hurt my voice so.
Vocálica, un espacio para descubrir tu voz con libertad.
Study. You asked me the first thing, what does somebody have to do? And we've become very benign about the craft. I believe we should be picky and in a celebratory way. I say to my students, I only am picky because I want you to be better. And, there's picky and mean, and there's picky and loving, and as a teacher, I loving, supportive, celebratory, but tough.
I love my kids, but I have to be tough on them too, with love.
That's right.
Just
With
because if
love.
I don't,
Yes.
they do whatever they want.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's
Celeste-
why that's
Celeste
why
está-
we're living.
Yes. Celeste está diciendo que en esta cultura, ¿verdad?, de lo inmediato, que estamos acostumbrados a recibir cosas inmediatas, nos estamos perdiendo de este proceso que es largo pero es bello. Y está hablando de que ella enseña en esta manera celebrativa, pero es que hemos negociado, ¿verdad? En ese asunto de conseguir resultados inmediatos, hemos negociado ser meticulosos con el arte, ser meticulosos con la técnica. Así que me encanta porque, ¿verdad? El asunto de uno hacer las cosas con amor, pero con, ¿verdad? Con la técnica que hay que enseñar sin el shortcut para que a largo plazo tú puedas
No
defender tu instrumento
shortcuts.
es excelente, excelente.
And
Excellent.
I'm still curious about belting. There's a lot of controversy about what is true belting or mixed belting is not real belting. You hear that a lot from people. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I used to be a belter, that was what they wanted. And that's what I think hurt my voice. So I think there can be a mix that sounds like a belt. It's just a little bit forward, a little bit more. And then there's a mix I call it the spinny mix, which is a little bit further back. This is so intensely intrinsic to, this is hard work. It's, and I always say also when I teach master classes, if you go into your voice lesson, you warm up for 10 minutes and then you sing songs and your teacher does not stop you, then you run for the door and find another teacher. The belt is really, I think there can be a mix that sounds very much like a belt. It has so much to do with the relaxed jaw, the tongue down, and the placement in the resonating cavities. Not in the nose, but in the resonating cavities. So much tension is held in the temporal mandibular. So I do physical exercises before. I did want to go back, though, to something that you said before. You asked before about what does someone do to get into musical theater. The study of voice, there are kids now that are coming at 10 years old. And I say, thank you. And I say to the parents, do you know that their muscle is only the size of their thumbnail? Go to a little school and have them in a group or something. That's another thing.
Or learning piano or learning an instrument that will be more beneficial in the long run. Sorry to interrupt. But
brilliant. No, brilliant. Yes. Learning piano. I teach some very famous people that don't know their keys. However, and it's a wonderful, you know what? Chita Rivera, one of my students. She's an icon in this business, and she has brought the Puerto Rican community to, she just won an award for, I forgot what the award was, but it was a culture award for being Puerto Rican. She doesn't read music, but boy, does she work hard. And boy, does she take every note apart. And at her age, she has decided to study and she's learning about, because it was all God given. I said, Chita, what
Wow.
did you do when you warmed up during your career? And she did one thing. And I'm not going to repeat it because I can't as well as she can. But I'm teaching her exercises because the aging voice is there's
Mhm.
atrophy going on and you have to keep it supple. But I'm
I would
digressing.
love I would love to talk about that too, so we don't forget the aging voice.
The aging
Mhm.
voice.
Mhm.
Listen, I
Yeah.
live it. I know. I don't demonstrate
A little
very
bit of an
often.
experience.
I'll tell them what to do, but I don't know if I could do it anymore. In order, also, let me not I'd be remiss to let these people know that dance is so imperative.
Mm.
These
Mhm.
college prep to get into college, it's so much about dance because I
Mm.
don't know if they're training them to be leads or stars. They're training them so they can be a part of an ensemble.
Mhm.
That's a general statement, but there's nothing wrong with me. I say to my kids all the time when they'll say, I just got in the ensemble. You didn't just get in the ensemble. You got in a show, and an ensemble is really important to make the show.
Mhm. Mhm.
Also, we are teaching about attitude and disappointment and how to bounce back from disappointment and
Mm.
That's
be positive.
so important. That's like 90% of everything, because there's a lot of
So much.
rejection and stuff. So you better learn that.
Also,
It,
too, one thing that's very important in this world is your presentation when you get in the room, knowing who you are.
Mhm.
So your picture has to reflect that. Your picture's your calling card. Knowing the material in your book that suits you. If I went in and sang, I could have danced all night they would have laughed because I was a character person. And a singer understanding, a Broadway person understanding where they fit in. In German, they call it where's your Fach or
Mhm.
and in
Mhm.
to know where you fit in. And that is reminiscent in your book. The book is incredibly important. So when you get called for an audition, you have an array of different songs in different styles. You're not going to sing Someday from Wedding Singer in an audition for Light in the Piazza.
Mhm.
Understanding your business is very
Mhm.
important. Is very important.
Mhm.
And getting into the
It,
room and agents, and it's a lifelong
Yeah, it's a
of
very
learning.
similar
that's great.
to classical music in
Mhm.
that sense,
Mhm. Mhm.
because if
Está,
you don't know the genre and you don't know what is expected, then what are you doing?
ujú,
You shouldn't be doing
ujú.
that.
Celeste nos está diciendo algo muy importante que, ¿verdad? Va al core del asunto, a la médula de este asunto. Y es que, número uno, bailar es imperativo en el arte del teatro musical. Y entonces, prepararte para entrar a college, a la universidad, ¿verdad? Es más sobre preparar tu cuerpo, prepararte sobre bailar, aunque cantar y todo lo demás lo debes estar haciendo. Cuando vas a hacer audiciones y cuando te vas a presentar, entras al cuarto sabiendo quién eres, reflejando seguridad, que tu foto, la foto de portfolio que vayas a presentar refleje tu personalidad y no solamente tu personalidad, sino que vaya acorde con los papeles que tú puedes representar y conocer para que eres bueno, tú sabes, porque está ella estableciendo la diferencia entre unos personajes y otros que tú, ¿verdad? A lo mejor no das el tipo de personaje, así que debes estar claro en términos de qué tipo de personaje, tu cuerpo, tu voz, y todo tú, ¿verdad? Tu personalidad, a cuáles se ajusta para que para eso sean los que tú audiciones. En Broadway eso es muy, muy importante y ella establece eso como parte de el entendimiento del negocio, el entendimiento y tener un buen agente, ¿verdad? Un buen agente. I- I- um, how do you find an agent to
Ugh.
start to start to start working in that field?
Okay. First of all, it's not easy. We have two things here in the States: Backstage and Actors Access. Anybody can go on those and submit via a video submission, submit their picture for projects. That's for those who have no agent. Just because you have an agent doesn't mean you're going to get all the auditions that you want. For a newcomer, it is incredibly hard to get an agent because you need credits. How do you get credits? It's a catch-22. So it's getting into a show where someone will see you, and then there's interest. Okay. Now, what does an agent? There are agents and there are managers. Each day in New York, Chicago, LA, Florida, I think that's it, they have a thing called breakdowns. And the breakdowns come out each day, and they are given to managers and agents of any project that's going on: musical theater, film, TV. Commercials is a little different, but so the breakdowns come on there. The agent then submits their clients to the casting people. The casting people then say, okay, we want Abby and we want Eileen to come in Tuesday at 11 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. It is, it's crazy. You get a credit, it's much easier to get an agent. And now with diversity, it's harder, it's everybody has their time. And now for the blonde, blue-eyed girl, it's not so easy to get an agent, because things are changing.
Wow. What about the internet? What about the internet? Is the social media having an impact in the way people are getting hired?
Well, I'm going to tell you, this is very interesting. I have a wonderful student. Her name is Eleri Ward. She went to Boston Conservatory, and she got an agent and was in the rooms, many callbacks for Wicked, many callbacks for Six, but never clicked. During the pandemic, she went in her closet and she started recording Sondheim acoustically. Well, she tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Not only did the Sondheim Foundation give her the go to do Sondheim music acoustically, but she just spent 10 weeks on the road with Josh Groban. That was social media. And now she's in a show in New York.
Yeah.
Social media is very, very
strong. Yeah, can you
Celeste está
translate
hablando
that?
sobre Sí, Celeste está hablando sobre una persona, ¿verdad? Que era su estudiante y no había conseguido una oportunidad, en resumen, ¿verdad? De todo lo que nos dijo, que comenzó a hacerlo durante la pandemia, cibernéticamente, en TikTok y en social media, y la llamaron para hacer, o sea, le dieron el permiso para hacerlo como lo estaba haciendo, y además la llamaron para hacer el tour. So, los medios sociales, ¿verdad?
They're changing
el medio
everything.
cibernético.
Completely.
Sí.
As we're speaking and I'm reflecting on some of the things that the reality, I have to bookend it with, there is no business like show business. It is the greatest business in the world. It is not easy, but it is great. And if you have the sensibility and the wherewithal and the constitution to live an actor's life, you could do this forever. But my agent used to say to me, you're out of work 95% of the time, so get a life. Yeah. So, I mean, the negative is so heavy, with the rents in New York and stuff, but if you love it, there's nothing like it. If you love it, you're going to do it until the universe kind of leads you down another road. But I just have a wonderful student. He was in Mean Girls. He just booked the new Neil Diamond musical. He's a hard worker. You stick to it and you work at it and you know your craft and you learn your business. You never know what will happen. You know, I do tell the reality because I want to save people pain. But if you know, I always used to say, you go into show business only if you die if you didn't. And there, you know, I loved it, but I always loved being on stage, but what I did to myself before I went on stage and what I did to myself after I got off stage was not worth it. It was because I didn't do that right. I said that. Oh, that wasn't funny. Oh, that note was flat. Oh, I should blah, blah, blah. I would drive myself insane. Can I ask you a question? When did you had a moment where you were like, I think teaching is my thing? I'm sure that was an evolution and a lot of things happened, but when did you found? It was one thing? You need to translate that because it's so good. Everything she said.
La pasión con la que Celeste habla es contagiosa y me fascina que esté aquí con nosotros porque nos contagia, ¿verdad? De esa pasión que sentimos por el arte que se profesa. Ella está hablándonos de que este business, ¿verdad? Como ella lo llama, no es fácil, pero es grandioso. Si tú tienes la constitución para vivir la vida de un actor, lo tienes que hacer. Y ella dice algo como, ¿verdad? Que te aferres a eso y que hagas de esto, que lo conozcas suficiente para hacer de esto tu vida y tu negocio, ¿verdad? Pero finalmente estaba diciendo una frase muy interesante que me fascinó. Entra en este negocio, en este business, ¿verdad? O en este campo, solo si te morirías si no lo hicieras, por lo difícil que es. Pero así de fuerte es la pasión que empuja a uno a querer hacerlo. Y nosotros, ¿verdad? Todos sabemos acerca de eso, y a todo el que le arde por dentro esa llamita por cantar o por perseguir una profesión que tenga que ver con cantar en cualquier field, en cualquier campo, pues uno sabe de eso es más que una pasión, es un llamado. Es un llamado. Qué bien que lo ponga. It's more like a calling, not a passion, just more like a calling, you know? It's
Can you
so
tell
strong.
us?
Yes, of course. I was very blessed to always work because I was funny and I was a good singer. I was also blessed to have great musical directors. What does that mean? That means a pianist that is with you like this. One was Christopher Marlowe and the other one was Michael Orland. Now, Michael Orland wound up we're still buddies during the pandemic. We worked West Coast to East Coast the whole time with different students. He was 16 years musical director for American Idol, and we worked together a lot. Okay, what happened? I sometimes wonder, when I got jobs, was I so excited to get jobs because I could brag about the jobs? Because when I had to pack and I had to, get my music and I had to do all that stuff, it was so stressful for me. If you saw me on stage, you'd think, oh, she's having the time of her life. I hated traveling. I hated being away from home. But I kept on getting work. So I kept on, I had a son, and I thought I had to keep on going. Okay, this is what happened. And I say it with such gratefulness. When I was 39, I got cancer for the first time. And I said, the universe has been telling me to stop performing, but it had to whack me upside the head. So my first cancer was the greatest gift I ever got, because I stopped performing, and there is not 1 ounce of me. People say all the time, don't you want to perform anymore? Don't you want to get up there? Oh my God, I have an anxiety attack just thinking about it. I can see my students. Last night, I rearranged my whole schedule. I'm going to work on the weekend so that I could go see my students. I love to see them perform. I love to be the voice teacher of famous people. Look, I have an ego. We all do. And that makes it makes me feel good. But what really makes me feel good is, I'm digressing again. I have this one young boy, he's on the spectrum. He can barely raise his head up to look at me when he sings. But after a year, he just got a part in his school play. That's worth it. Right?
You touched
In the school
something.
music. Right?
Oh gosh.
That's the best
That's
thing.
brutal.
But so why I stopped performing was because God said, you're not doing anything I'm telling you, so I'm really gonna whack you. And then I started. I always taught. I taught at Turtle Bay Music School, which was just a lovely little music school on the east side of Manhattan, and it was a good straight job in between performing. But once that experience happened, I taught full time. And how lucky am I? I mean, to make my living teaching full time. Oh my God. I feel so blessed all the time.
Yes.
Wow.
Let me tell our people, Celeste está diciendo cómo fue su transición entre ser un performer o un ejecutante del arte o una cantante, y entonces cómo se convirtió en la pregunta que le hizo la doctora Voss, ¿verdad? Acerca de cómo ella supo, en qué momento supo que ella quería ser maestra y iba a dejar de ser cantante. Así que ella dice que ella era graciosa y muy buena cantante y fue bendecida de tener muchos buenos mentores y directores, etcétera, y espacios para cantar. Pero mencionó algo muy interesante, que cuando conseguía un trabajo, ¿verdad? Algún espacio donde cantar, pues le encantaba, más porque podía adularse, ¿verdad? Por eso y ¿verdad? Brag about it. Pero era estresante para ella y para muchos. Eso es un sentimiento que comparte mucha gente en la carrera. Era muy estresante, detestaba empacar, irse de su casa, dejar a su hijo, y en un momento dado tuvo cáncer por primera vez, y ella capturó ese momento como la voz de Dios diciéndole o ratificando algo que ella ya venía sintiendo por un tiempo, para que ella se detuviera y viera ¿verdad? Esta carrera de otra forma. Y luego pues comenzó a decirnos sobre la bendición que, ¿verdad? Yo puedo, ¿verdad? Identificarme muchísimo con eso, porque es una bendición uno alcanzar a la gente de la manera que uno puede alcanzarlo, enseñando a cantar. Nos habló de un niño que estaba en el espectro y que finalmente ella pudo enseñarlo y que tuviera el character, el personaje principal en la obra de su escuela, así que no podía ni siquiera levantar su cabeza, y que pueda hacer eso es una bendición. Así que no, en general o en resumen, ella lo cuenta, ¿verdad? De esta forma, que ella comenzó a enseñar porque Dios así lo quiso. Así que me parece una manera maravillosa de ir resumiendo este asunto con Celeste. Celeste, you know, I know you have a lot to say. Abigail, do you have any more questions for Celeste? I know you have a lot.
Well, I
But we
do,
have-
but
I have a question. What does
Yeah.
a la gente mean? I think of the coffee.
a la
I
gente.
didn't hear it.
A la
You
gente.
said, yeah, you say a la gente. You said a la gente a couple times.
The
What does that
people.
mean?
The people. Let me
The
tell
people.
Oh,
the
the
people.
people. Got it.
A la
You
gente sounds
understand
like
something
coffee.
like coffee? Like coffee?
You remember the a la gente, the coffee guy?
No.
It was a commercial in the United States for coffee. A la gente.
To the people, let me translate to the people. She's trying, ella está tratando de capturar
descifrar lo
algo
que
del
estamos diciendo.
español. Algo del español, pero no está ni cerca con el asunto de a la gente. Yo estoy hablando de que le vamos a explicar a la gente, y ella está relacionándolo con café. Así.
Well, this is
Awesome.
everything you've said today. Really, I think resonated with both of us a lot. And I mean, I'm learning a lot, and unfortunately I didn't grow up with musical theater, but if I had the chance to go back in time, I think I would have tried it, because it's such a beautiful art form. And I'm lucky that I got to perform classical music for a long time, and I still do. But I think it's such a beautiful art form, and we're so
But
lucky to have people like you.
well, that's very sweet. But you have a very open attitude. There are many classical teachers that don't consider musical theater singing. They're
I think that's
so.
changing a lot. I think that's
I
changing
hope
a lot.
so.
Yes, because now we have other resources. We know the science behind singing and what's happening, and we have to be open to it, because how can people make these amazing sounds with one instrument? Like what you said was a perfect description. One voice, different colors.
Yes.
The fact that we can do all of that with our instruments, and now we know exactly how that happens. I mean, why would you have any objections for it?
Well,
Celeste está diciendo algo muy interesante acerca de que a veces en el espacio de la música clásica y de la educación clásica no se considera el teatro musical, ¿verdad? Como algo serio, ¿verdad? ¿qué fue lo que ella dijo? Como algo técnicamente, ¿verdad? Serio.
Correcto o serio.
Correcto, ajá. Así que Abigail está hablando sobre, ¿verdad? La mucho que ha cambiado ese pensamiento y de las investigaciones que se hacen ahora y las cosas a las que uno se acerca con otra perspectiva acerca de los colores de la voz y la diversidad que puede traer este instrumento vocal. Celeste.
Yeah.
there are so many things that we haven't even begun. I mean, just to take one singer and work through a song as a musical theater coach and technician is crazy. So different. The vowels are so different. I always say there's a classical there's a Rodgers and Hammerstein there's a contemporary and to know those, knowledge is power. And the other thing, and then I'll shut up, is it's not only musical theater, it's pop. There's
Everything.
so much everything. Exactly.
I think to answer your question, I think I'm very open to it too because of my background. I come from the mountains in Puerto Rico, where what I heard was merengue, bolero, salsa. That was the thing I heard. So I learned how to sing by listening to those different vowels that you're talking about. And nobody taught me till I went to a conservatory. And then I felt misunderstood a lot, because I felt like, well, I cannot incorporate any of this. When can I incorporate all of this? And later in my career, I started seeing the value of it and incorporating it on my own, obviously. But I understand where you're coming from, but I think that's why I'm open to it too.
And the music you listen to it. Oh, sorry.
Como coach y como técnica del teatro musical, Celeste está diciendo que el acercamiento a las vocales y la articulación es diferente. Se articula de manera diferente. Hay una A para la música clásica, pero una A para el teatro musical, igual que para la música popular. Así que ahí Abigail aprovechó para explicar que ella viene de las montañas de Puerto Rico y que su primer encuentro con la música fue la música popular. Así que cuando llegó que eso lo experimentamos casi todos, ¿verdad? Que venimos de música popular, buscamos un lugar donde estudiar, vamos al conservatorio y el acercamiento es tan diferente y casi nada de lo que uno, ¿verdad? trajo funciona hasta que uno madura un poquito y aprende, caray, esto no estaba tan, tú sabes, no estaba tan lejos del asunto, lo puedo incorporar. Así que hay que madurar en ese asunto. You have to mature and discover by yourself how can you adapt that.
But the music that you heard, the music that you heard in the mountains that you're talking about, the placement of all those sounds and the overtones of those drums and the stuff, it was all placement that was much further forward than than classical.
Absolutely, yes. But then you start distinguishing the differences, and playing with your instrument without feeling shame. without feeling, oh, if I try to use my voice differently, there's no harm in my vocal folds. I'm not because I know exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. So I think that's part of the growth that Elaine was talking about, that you understand that deeply when you go through that experience. And I know Elaine went through the same experience too. So that's why
you did?
Yes.
What
So Abigail está diciendo acerca de, ¿verdad?, la transición que uno tiene que hacer de venir de música popular y luego rescatar esas cosas para poder hacer, o sea, luego de uno entrenarse o adiestrarse para hacer música clásica y técnica vocal, pues rescatar esas cosas e incorporarlas sabiendo que no te estás haciendo un daño vocal, sino que ese fundamento de tu fe vocal no lo vas a negociar, pero puedes incorporar esas cosas de claridad, de articulación de vocales que en la música popular es valiosísima y también en el teatro musical.
Claro.
Celeste, how grateful we are to have you here and to talk to you. It's so amazing, everything that we have learned. Abigail?
I'm so inspired by you, and I want to be like you when I grow up.
Oh, stop.
Me too.
Please. I'm so grateful that Eduardo connected us.
Yes.
It's still fascinating to me. There's, the one thing I'll say about the technique, someone once said to me, you become a great teacher by teaching. And I learn something new every day. I'm working with straws now more than I ever did before. I always did, but now I'm like, oh, these really work. Bottom line is this. I'm sure many teachers would disagree with some of the techniques I use, but my students can sing 8 shows a week and they never have vocal issues. And that to me is the key. You got to get through 8 shows a week. Classical warm-up, sometimes I'll know in a second when a singer, I said, did you study classically? Because their warm-ups are like they're yelling. I say, it's a warm-up, not a beat-up. You got to do 8 shows a week. Calm down. Anyway, there's still so much to talk about. I'm so grateful to be able to meet you, Abby, and to have met Eileen, and how fascinating and so wonderful that you want to bring this to your artistic community. And I'm in, girls. I'm in.
Thank you. Thank you. We
so
love
much.
you, Celeste. Thanks for everything. Esto último que nos dijo Celeste es maravilloso, ¿verdad? Porque estaba hablándonos de ¿verdad? Que uno se convierte en una gran maestra enseñando. Uno, ¿sabes? En el ejercicio de enseñar es que te conviertes en un gran maestro. Así que ahora está hablando de que está usando mucho el sorbeto y que muchos maestros probablemente piensan que eso es de avanzada o diferente, pero que ninguno de sus estudiantes, ¿verdad?, se hace daño vocal y pueden cantar 8 espectáculos a la semana sin hacerse daño vocal. De eso se trata la buena técnica vocal, y también buscar un maestro apasionado, un maestro que esté invertido, ¿verdad?, en darte las mejores herramientas para que tu voz se pueda manifestar con libertad. Abigail, qué buen tiempo hemos tenido. Me ha encantado esta experiencia. Celeste. Thank you.
Adios.
Thanks for being here with so much passion and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope to hear from you soon, and God bless you, Abby, and your children.
Thank you.
Amén. Gracias. Que mucho hemos disfrutado. Esperamos que ustedes, amigos, hayan disfrutado tanto como nosotros de esta experiencia, que mucho hemos aprendido, y qué pasión, ¿verdad? Que impregna a todo el mundo. Ahora queremos escuchar Hazlo Fácil con la doctora voz, Abigail.
Pues mira, Eileen, algo que ella dijo que me parece que es muy práctico es una voz, muchos colores. One voice, multiple colors. Y yo creo que eso es muy aplicable a nuestra vida, porque si nosotros trabajamos nuestra voz desde esa perspectiva y pensamos, bueno, queremos que mi voz sea funcional, que sea una voz saludable, van a haber ciertos ejercicios y ciertas cosas que, como dice Eileen, muchas veces no son negociables. Y nosotros decidimos, luego que tenemos esos fundamentos bien establecidos, decidimos qué color le queremos dar a nuestro instrumento. Queremos sonar más teatro musical, queremos sonar más comercial, más operático. El cuerpo humano tiene muchas formas y muchas posibilidades. Y esto es parte de la belleza que nos da el estudiar distintos géneros, que entendemos distintas paletas de colores y distintas opciones que tenemos como cantantes.
Yes.
Y
Y
Aileen,
para tu vida y para tu voz va a ser parte de esa premisa que Celeste nos dejó. Además dijo, one voice, many choices. Siempre vamos a tener opciones y eres tú quien decides. Esto lo hemos dicho muchas veces, tanto para tu vida como para tu voz. Siempre van a ocurrir situaciones adversas, ¿verdad? Que van a funcionar luego como herramientas de encuentro con tu comisión, con tu propósito, con tu proyecto. Así que siempre van a haber tropezones o situaciones, ¿verdad? Dentro de las cosas que vayas a hacer vocalmente que pueden darte un hint de por dónde es que debes tú dirigirte, hacia dónde dirigirte con la comisión vocal, igual que con la comisión de vida. Así que vamos a tener una sola voz, pero muchas opciones para tu vida y también para tu voz.
bueno, y no olviden darnos un review, buscarnos en Spotify, en Google Podcast, que ya estamos en Google Podcast.
En todas las plataformas donde hay podcast, nosotros estamos
ahí.
Vocálica.
Así que nos pueden
Porque
buscar
de
en
verdad,
iTunes.
no me sé los nombres de todas, pero sí, en las principales, y búsquenlas en todas porque hay muchas. Yo no sabía que habían tantas plataformas de podcast, pero donde quiera, busque Vocálica y allí vamos a estar.
Allí vamos a estar. Y pues, ¿qué más, Aileen?
Queremos que nos escriban a nuestro email, que es vocalicanta@gmail.com. Hemos estado recibiendo tantas expresiones de la gente que nos escucha y inquietudes y temas, sugerencias de temas que podemos tratar, así que estamos leyéndolos a todos y contestando poco a poco. Queremos que nos escriban y que nos digan sus impresiones y también aquellas cosas que quieren escuchar de nosotros aquí. Aquí estamos para hacer comunidad con todos ustedes porque este es el lugar donde hablamos de nuestra voz con libertad. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Cuídense y
Hasta la
cuiden sus
próxima.
voces.
Bye.
Hasta luego.